Hey everybody, welcome to another video. My name is Mason. Today I want to talk about a recent writing contest with a very unique concept that I participated in, and it was a lot of fun. And I just want to talk about my experience with it. I want to talk about how I did. I want to talk about writing contests in general, whether they're good for our writing, whether we can do too many of them, whether we don't do enough. Just talk about some concepts like that. So let's get into it. All right, so this contest I participated in, it's called Writing Battle, and it's a peer-reviewed contest that kind of consists of a series of duels against other stories, which I think is a really interesting concept. One of the reasons I wanted to participate in this is that my background in some of my other hobbies are a lot of competitive hobbies like video games and card games and stuff like that. So I'm no stranger to being in tournaments and having brackets and facing off against opponents. I love that. I love something about it. Just I don't know. It might be some way that my brain's wired, but I love like tournaments and stuff like that. And so I just thought this was a really cool way to kind of engage with that competitive side of myself, but with writing. And of course, writing is so subjective. I mean, let's, get that out of the way right now. There's so much luck involved in doing well in a contest like this when it's peer reviewed. You just don't know if somebody resonates with your story or not. But basically how it works, I'm going to really muddy this and not, give the best description of how this works. But essentially, I'll go to the rules here. So eventually you write a story. You have a certain amount of time to write a story. This summer one was a nanofiction battle. So it was only 250 words, which I've never done before. I've only ever written short stories around like 5,000 words, or I've written, full novels. So this was definitely, stretching me to try something new. And so you get prompts and you can redraw some of your prompts. Basically, so you don't like pre-write something ahead of time for the contest, but also to kind of divide you up into houses based off of your genre, which we'll talk about all that in just a second. And so you write it, you have a few days to write the story, and then over the course of several days, you read other stories, you read duels. So I'm given two stories from somebody else in a different genre, and I read those two stories and I pick which one I like the most, and I leave feedback that I liked and didn't like about the story or thought could use improvement, blah, blah, blah. And so that goes on for 5 rounds. And your stories will get sent to 2 people during those rounds. So basically, you receive points at the end of these 5 rounds based off of how many duels you won out of 10. And so if you get 7 wins out of 10, you will advance to the finals, which is like a big bracket tournament, basically. And so that's the idea of how it works. And so as far as the genres go, there are 4 genres at the beginning of every contest. There was, for this contest specifically, there was sci-fi western, there was jailbreak, there was inanimate romance, and there was social commentary. And of course, these can be used pretty creatively and liberally with how you want to approach them. I think the winner of Jailbreak wasn't actually about somebody breaking out of a jail. It was more about something more metaphorical of breaking free from something. So I just thought that was a really interesting way to approach contests. And I know there's contests like this that exist that are like, you're given a prompt or a genre or something. But I think just this whole like structure of you're getting duels and then you go into this bracket, I just love it. It really resonates with me and, scratches that competitive itch. And so basically what happens is your story then gets divided, or I guess initially you're divided into these houses and you don't really know what house you're in at the beginning. But at the end of when the results are released, you can see right here all of the stories that are in a specific house. And if a story gets more than 7 points, like I said, they move on to the final. So you can see the stories that got to move on. So how did I do? Well, I was able to move on into the final from my house. I got 7 points, so it was really close. So basically, my story got sent out and was judged 10 times, and I won 7 of those 10 duels, which I was very lucky that happened. But also, I was very happy with it and proud of it. So I got to go on to the final where I lost in the top 64, I believe. yes, I lost to a story called The Call of the Void, which I thought was really a great story. I thought it was much better than mine. It definitely deserved to win. And so you're basically, there is a winner from each genre. So the bracket continues, the Sweet 16, you go to the 8, and there's 4, and then the 2 best stories of that genre compete, and one of them wins. And throughout this whole thing, there's a lot of feedback that's given, which I think is really helpful. And I just thought it was a really cool concept that I really enjoyed kind of stretching myself a bit. Here's the actual story itself. If you can pause it if you want to read. So my prompts, originally I was given the sci-fi Western genre, and I wanted nothing to do with that, especially with such a short word count. It didn't feel like something I would be able to do. And like I said, I had no idea how this all was going to play out because I've never done anything like this. So I was given that. I re-rolled some of my other prompts. So you get like a character and an object. And I felt good with loner because I felt like that would be pretty easy to pull off. And then easel. And so I was thinking, all right, well, this has something to do with like an artist in prison. I knew initially that's immediately what I wanted to do. And that's not a very outside the box way to approach the genre. But I went with, like I said right here in my comment, a little more of a standard take on the genre. So this is my story. I was, like I said, I didn't know how this was going to go, like whether I would even be able to do this. But, the second I sat down to write, it happened pretty naturally. And I was pretty happy with how things turned out. I wrote this in like an hour and, took like 20 minutes to make a couple edits and then just submitted it. And I felt pretty good about it. Like I said, I've never written anything this short. I think the main thing for me was I felt good about the story. I felt like it was really solid. I felt like during the duels, I would probably get some points because it's not a super complicated story. You kind of get right into the action. It's pretty clear about what it's about. It has a little bit of a twisty ending. I felt like the prose was fairly good. I really liked this little line. I felt like that was probably the strongest part of the story. But at the same time, I didn't feel like it had kind of like the special sauce needed to really win the contest. So I figured it might do well in the initial duels, but then when we get to the final bracket stages, I didn't think it would do amazing against some other much better stories, and that's pretty much exactly how it played out. But there's so much randomness involved. Like I said, it's very subjective. It's a writing contest, so you never know. But then other people can leave comments on your story and stuff, which is really cool. But I just really enjoyed it. I thought it was a neat concept. I'll probably participate in this every time they have it. I think they have 4 a year. But outside of this, I don't want to do too many more contests because I really want to, of course, be focused on writing my novel and, getting more of my short stories published. And I've not always been super into shorter, really, really short fiction, though this was good practice. But the next one is a 2,000 word contest this Writing Battle's hosting. So in addition to that, I felt like the UI was really nice. Everything was really smooth to navigate. The owners of the site do a really, really amazing job with how this is all set up and runs. And so I wanted to talk about my experience and hopefully recommend it to anyone that might be interested. What else to add? There's a forum, and people are very kind, and it's a very good community here on Writing Battle. So it was cool. I just had a really fun time. I was really glad to do well and make it to the finals. And like I said, I'm quite competitive, and I won't be heartbroken if I were to do worse next time, but I always want to be better. And I think that being almost cocky, confident, I have to when I write, because I know how competitive writing is. There's so many really, really good writers out there. And so next time I want to win. That's my goal. So it's lofty, obviously, but we'll see. I think that's all I got. I mean, this was obviously very rambly. I just wanted to talk about my experience and recommend this writing contest for anybody interested in trying something a little outside the box or different. And so that's all I got. Thank you so much for watching. Until the next one.